Resident Evil has given us some of the most iconic survivors in gaming history, but here's the question. If we rank the deadliest main characters, who actually comes out on top? Not just in terms of raw strength, but brains, battle scars, and the monsters they've sent back to the grave. Today, we're putting 5 heavy hitters on the scale: Hunk, Leon Kennedy, Chris Redfield, Ethan Winters, and Jill Valentine. Each will be judged on smarts, physical prowess, and the enemies they've crushed. By the end, we'll have an S to F tier list that finally answers who's the ultimate survivor. Let's dive in. You're dropped into Raccoon City, the streets already drowning in fire and screams. But unlike Leon or Jill, you're not here to save anyone. You're Hunk, the Umbrella Corporation's Grim Reaper. His nickname wasn't born from bravado, but from survival statistics. Every mission he's been assigned, every hellhole he's been tossed into, he walks out alive while his entire squad ends up in body bags. That kind of survival rate demands brains as much as bullets. Isn't a cowboy like Leon or a muscle tank like Chris. He's tactical, methodical, cold. He calculates risk the way most people calculate change at a cash register. When his comrades panic, he keeps his oxygen consumption steady. At rest, an average human inhales about 0.5 liters per breath. Under combat stress, most triple that. Hunk? He's trained to keep it controlled, avoiding hyperventilation that could fog his mask or burn through precious stamina. Physically, he's not portrayed as a steroid monster, but make no mistake, Hunk is efficient. He moves like a shadow, wasting zero energy. Think of it like a Navy SEAL running through a kill house. Every motion is muscle memory. While Leon's flashy suplexes grab the spotlight, Hunk's bread and butter is surgical precision. He's the guy who shoots 2 rounds, both headshots, and is already out the door before you blink. And then there are his enemies. This is a man who's had to dance with G-mutants, flesh piles bigger than trucks, and BOWs that shredded through elite squads like tissue paper. Yet Hunk always claws his way out. In Resident Evil 2's 4th survivor scenario, you guide him through the sewers to the extraction point. No herbs, no backup, no cinematic plot armor, just skill and patience. If Jill is the master of unlocking, then Hunk is the master of not dying. So where does that put him? He's brilliant under fire, his physical endurance is off the charts thanks to discipline, and his kill record includes some of Umbrella's nastiest pets. But the catch is that Hunk isn't fighting for humanity. He's fighting for survival and orders. Compared to Leon or Jill, his enemies aren't the apex bosses of the series, and his victories don't carry the same weight. He's a ghost, yes, but a ghost who operates in the shadows rather than on the front lines of the series' biggest battles. Verdict? Hunk lands in B tier. Efficient, tactical, and terrifying if you're in his crosshairs, but not quite legendary enough to stand beside Resident Evil's icons. He's the ultimate survivor in the margins of the story, but that's also what keeps him out of the top tier. Next up, let's talk about the rookie cop who went from wide-eyed in Raccoon City to roundhouse-kicking cult leaders in Spain. You're a rookie cop reporting for your first day on the job. The city's already burning, corpses are already walking, and the smell of gasoline and blood hits harder than any academy drill. That's how Leon S. Kennedy enters Resident Evil lore. Straight into hell, unprepared, and somehow surviving when trained soldiers got mulched. Leon's smarts don't show up as book intelligence, but as streetwise adaptation. In Resident Evil 2, he starts as a rookie, but by Resident Evil 4, he's an operative trusted to protect the president's daughter. That's a glow-up backed by quick learning. His ability to improvise, turning a shotgun blast into crowd control, figuring out puzzles under time pressure, or reading enemy behavior is why he lasts. His decision-making is lightning fast under stress, and that's where psychology matters. Most people freeze when cortisol spikes beyond 20 micrograms per deciliter. Leon? He thrives in that chemical storm, riding stress like a surfer on a wave. Physically, Leon's an athlete. By Resident Evil 4, his moveset turns him into a one-man army. Suplexes? That's about 1,200 pounds of force applied to snap a human spine. Leon throws it like a party kick. His roundhouse kicks? A properly trained martial artist can deliver up to 700 pounds of force. Leon does it while surrounded by parasite-infested villagers, barely breaking rhythm. His stamina borders on absurd, running, dodging, climbing, and fighting for hours without the kind of exhaustion that would crush a normal cop. For context, the average person can sprint at max for maybe 30 seconds before their VO squared max tanks. Leon spends whole nights in combat zones without sleep. Now the big one, enemies defeated. This is where Leon skyrockets. He's not just fighting zombies. He's faced William Birkin in his G-Virus monstrosity form, wiped through armies of Ganados, taken down El Gigante, a 10-foot parasite-fused brute weighing nearly a ton, and of course, battled Osmond Sadler, the cult leader hosting the Plaga's hive mind. Leon's enemies aren't just bosses, they're apex predators of the franchise, and he still walks out, battered, but unbroken. What makes Leon legendary is the mix of brains under fire, agility, and a trophy case of nightmare kills. Unlike Hunk, Leon fights with flair and against threats that shake entire regions. Unlike Chris, he doesn't just use brute force. He adapts, outthinks, and outmaneuvers. So where does he land? Leon is the definition of a survivor who evolves into a hero. From rookie cop to secret agent, he's proven himself across the board. Verdict? S tier. Stylish, deadly, and resilient. He's the poster boy for why you don't underestimate a survivor with nothing to lose. But Leon isn't the only Resident Evil veteran who's leveled up from normal to superhuman. Next, let's talk about Chris Redfield, the man whose biceps became a weapon strong enough to punch a boulder. You're in a volcano, the ground shaking, lava boiling beneath your feet, and standing across from you is Albert Wesker, Umbrella's golden boy turned superhuman tyrant. Most people would have been vaporized or torn apart. Chris Redfield, he goes toe-to-toe and wins, even punching a boulder the size of a car out of his path like it's just another day at the gym. Chris has always been the muscle of Resident Evil, but muscle alone doesn't cut it in a biohazard nightmare. His smarts come from tactical experience. Starting as a special tactics and rescue service officer, he evolved into a BSAA captain leading full-scale counter-bioterrorism ops. He plans missions, adapts to shifting threats, and coordinates with partners like Jill and Shiva. In combat science, strategy is survival. Even a split-second hesitation can spike fatality odds by 40%. Chris doesn't just pull the trigger, he calculates when, how, and with whom. Now, physical prowess. Chris is a walking physics lesson. A normal punch from an average man, roughly 120 pounds of force. A heavyweight boxer, around 1,000. Chris punching that infamous boulder to move several tons of volcanic rock, even slightly, would require upwards of 20,000 pounds of force. His endurance is off the charts. He tanks wounds that would put others in shock and keeps fighting for hours, sometimes days. His cardiovascular conditioning alone must be elite. A human body burns around 600 calories an hour in sustained combat. Chris pushes through entire operations that would chew up a Marine squad. And then there's his resume of kills. From the original Spencer Mansion, Chris has battled hunters, tyrants, and his personal nemesis, Wesker himself. Add in a laundry list: the Nemesis-class prototypes, bioorganic colossi, and even enhanced parasites. He's faced everything Umbrella and beyond could throw at him, often environments engineered to kill him. Psychologically, Chris is hardened steel. Trauma doesn't break him, it fuels him. His obsession with eradicating bioweapons borders on pathological, but it's exactly that drive that keeps him from freezing up. Stress levels that would cause adrenaline collapse in others seem to sharpen his focus. So where does Chris rank? His smarts are solid, but not genius level. He's a soldier first. His physical prowess is unmatched in raw strength, bordering on superhuman, and the enemies he's defeated are top-tier threats, including the franchise's ultimate villain. That combination locks him high on the board. Verdict? S tier. Not subtle, not graceful, but absolutely unstoppable. Now, if Chris is raw power, the next survivor flips the script. He's not a trained soldier, not an agent, not a commando. He's just a regular guy who keeps getting thrown into bioweapon hell. Let's talk about Ethan Winters. You wake up in a stranger's mansion. Your wife is missing, and something feels wrong in the air. Then you realize her skin is splitting, her eyes glow feral, and she's swinging a chainsaw at your neck. That's Ethan Winter's introduction to the Resident Evil nightmare. And he's not a cop, not a soldier, not even a seasoned fighter. He's just a systems engineer who wanted to find his wife. Ethan's smarts don't come from tactical training, but from sheer problem solving under pressure. Resident Evil 7 and Village constantly throw puzzles, improvised weapons, and escape scenarios at him. And Ethan adapts fast. He's basically MacGyver with a handgun. His survival relies on outthinking environments stacked to kill him. Cognitively, that's huge. Most people shut down when adrenaline floods the bloodstream past about 25 micrograms per deciliter. Ethan doesn't. He pushes forward, even when panic should have shut down logical thought. Physically, Ethan is deceptively resilient. Let's be blunt, he gets mutilated more than any other protagonist, and somehow he keeps fighting. The average human would pass out from blood loss after losing just 15% of total blood volume. Ethan regularly survives trauma close to 30%, which points to his unique biology. By Resident Evil Village, the truth lands. Ethan is essentially molded. He died during the events of Resident Evil 7, and the mold revived him. That means his regenerative capacity is borderline superhuman. He shrugs them off after a splash of healing fluid. Enemies? Ethan doesn't get the clean soldier missions. He's up against nightmares straight out of folklore. The Baker family, each one a grotesque tank of bioweapon resilience. Jack Baker, taking shotgun blasts to the face and still chasing him. Marguerite with her insect swarms. And the Village, the Four Lords. Heisenberg with his magnetic monstrosities. Donna with her psychological warfare. Moreau with his mutated Leviathan form. And finally, Mother Miranda, a literal god-tier bioweapon. That boss list, arguably one of the most stacked in the entire series. But Ethan's psychology might be his strongest weapon. He's terrified, yes, but he doesn't stop. His motivation is personal, not professional. Protecting his family drives him beyond human limits. Even when his body is crumbling, he pushes until the very end. In survival terms, willpower is the difference between collapsing in a blizzard after 2 hours or trudging on for 6. Ethan embodies that willpower. So where does Ethan land? His smarts are practical, his physical feats are secretly enhanced, and his enemies are god tier. But he's not a trained fighter. His skills with weapons is clumsy compared to Leon or Chris. His edge is durability and will, not tactical genius. Verdict? A tier. He's proof that sometimes the regular guy, made unregular, can hang with the best. Next up, Jill Valentine. The mansion doors creak shut behind you. You're trapped, unarmed, and already hearing footsteps that don't sound human. For Jill Valentine, that was just the beginning. She's one of the original survivors, and her legacy runs through the heart of the Resident Evil series. If Leon is the flashy agent and Chris the heavy hitter, Jill is the perfect balance between brains and firepower. First, the smarts. Jill's nickname in the first game was the Master of Unlocking. A cheeky title, sure, but it highlights her problem-solving skills. She's got the instincts of a field agent, able to spot traps, crack puzzles, and improvise under crushing pressure. She isn't just clever with locks. She's multilingual, a trained bomb technician, and an expert with small arms. In high-stress cognition tests, people's accuracy with firearms drops by over 40% when cortisol spikes. Jill? She keeps her groups tight, her reloads clean, and her head clear. Physically, she's a powerhouse in her own right. Unlike Chris, she doesn't rely on brute force, but her agility and endurance keep her alive. She scales environments, dodges monstrosities like Nemesis, and fights through infection itself. In Resident Evil 3, Jill is injected with the T-virus, survives the infection, and recovers without losing her humanity. That's not just resilience, that's genetic luck wrapped in iron will. A normal human body would have been rewritten at the cellular level. Jill resists, proving she's got biological advantages even beyond her training. And then there are her enemies. Jill's rogue gallery is legendary. Nemesis? That towering tyrant with a rocket launcher and tentacles thicker than her torso? She outsmarts him again and again until she finally puts him down. She's also fought through waves of hunters, tyrants, and Umbrella's nastiest experiments. Later, she faces Wesker under mind control, enduring his manipulation until Chris pulls her back. That's not just physical toughness, it's psychological strength to resist control. Speaking of psychology, Jill is ice under fire. She's seen friends die, endured betrayal, and carried the trauma of being weaponized by Umbrella. Most people buckle under PTSD, but Jill channels hers into focus. She's the kind of survivor who doesn't just react, she anticipates. In combat terms, that's gold. Reflexes save lives, but prediction wins fights. So where does Jill rank? She's the full package. Smarts, sharp. Physical prowess, balanced and resilient. Enemies, she's killed icons of the series and stood tall. But she's the glue that makes the series' survivors credible. Verdict? S tier. Jill Valentine isn't just a survivor, she's the template that defined what Resident Evil heroes became. Now we've seen them all, it's time to line them up and lock in the final tier list once and for all. So after tearing through the lore, the science, and the boss fights, the ranking looks like this. S tier belongs to Leon Kennedy, Chris Redfield, and Jill Valentine, the franchise's true heavyweights. Leon brings adaptability and style, Chris brings brute force heroics, and Jill is the perfect survivor template. Just below, in A tier, sits Ethan Winters, the regular guy turned molded powerhouse who tanked some of the nastiest bosses in the series. And finally, holding down B tier is Hunk, the legend of survival, the Grim Reaper himself, but a man who fights in the shadows rather than on Resident Evil's biggest stages. And that's the beauty of Resident Evil. Each character's survival isn't just about bullets or biceps. It's about a mix of brains, resilience, and willpower when the world melts down. From rookies to veterans, from shadows to spotlights, these survivals keep proving why the series has endured for decades. So now, I'll throw it back to you. What do you think? Did Leon deserve the top slot? Should Ethan rank higher than Jill? And most importantly, what would you do to survive if Nemesis kicked down your door? Drop your ranking in the comments.